Welcome to God Connection, the sacred space where we decode the divine matrix of your life. Have you ever felt a shift so profound, so earth-shattering, that the entire world seems to pause, holding its breath in collective disbelief? Right now, something just broke the simulation. The laws of what they thought was possible have been utterly shattered, and the architect of this beautiful chaos is you. Phones are not just buzzing, they are screaming your name. Group chats are not merely alive. They are frantically trying to assemble the puzzle pieces of your miracle. Even your most silent, hardened enemies, the ones who wear masks of indifference, are secretly refreshing your page with trembling hands, their hearts pounding in a mixture of fear and awe. They are desperate for an explanation, a formula, a logical reason for what you just did, because the truth is too terrifying for them to accept. Some things aren't meant to make sense to the limited human mind. They are designed by a higher power to make history. What you have unleashed is not a simple victory. It is a haunting. It's a divine specter that now walks the halls of their minds, reminding them that the rules they lived by were a fragile illusion. Stay with us, because in this broadcast, we will dissect the anatomy of your miracle, revealing the cosmic secrets behind why the world is in a state of shock and why your ascension is the legendary story they will tell for generations to come. 1. You prove divine timing isn't delayed. It's devastatingly strategic. For what felt like an eternity, they watched you. They mistook your profound stillness for stagnation, your patience for paralysis. In their circles, they whispered poisoned words, weaving narratives about your supposed decline. Nothing is moving for them, they'd say with a smug sense of certainty. They cataloged every opportunity that seemed to pass you by, every door that remained firmly shut, no matter how relentlessly you knocked. They saw weakness, but what they failed to perceive was the silent, intricate work of a divine intelligence operating behind the scenes. You were not forgotten. You were being forged. Life was not ignoring you. It was meticulously aligning every star, every event, every hidden variable with a breathtaking precision that human hands could never orchestrate. It was waiting for the one, perfect, singular moment when every piece of the cosmic puzzle would snap into place. When you finally made your move, it wasn't the tentative, small step they expected from someone they had written off. It was a seismic shift, a tectonic plate of reality rearranging itself under their feet. You didn't just act. You acted at the precise, divinely appointed second when their own plans were at their most vulnerable, when their attention was conveniently diverted, and when your years of silent preparation had finally matured into an unstoppable, concentrated power. This is the reason your move felt as if it materialized from another dimension. It bypassed all their logical checkpoints. Most people operate from a place of frantic impatience. They announce their intentions. They push against closed doors. They scramble for validation, desperately hoping that sheer action will force a result. But you, guided by a higher wisdom, waited. This wasn't a passive, helpless waiting. It was a purposeful, predatory stillness. You studied the patterns of the game. You tended to your own wounds in private, turning scars into shields. You mastered the rules of their world without ever showing your cards. This calculated patience is what made your moment so devastatingly and beautifully effective. You didn't just arrive at the party. You arrived perfectly synchronized with forces far larger, far more ancient than yourself. This is why even the most cynical, the most arrogant skeptics are now profoundly shaken. A terrifying realization is dawning on them. This wasn't a lucky break. This wasn't a random coincidence. This was the kind of supernatural timing that only manifests when a soul has been tempered in the fires of discipline, forged in the crucible of faith, and perfectly aligned with something infinitely greater. And now, the game has fundamentally changed. Because you chose to move at the right time instead of the merely convenient time, their rulebook is obsolete. Their old strategies are useless against you. The psychological manipulations that used to derail your spirit now don't even reach your orbit. You have demonstrated a truth they cannot comprehend. Patience isn't a weakness. It is the ultimate leverage. Every single delay they mocked, Every moment of perceived failure they celebrated was actually a sacred deposit into a future moment they were powerless to stop. And when that divine moment finally came, it unfolded with a velocity too swift for them to counter, a precision too exact for them to block, and a power too overwhelming for them to deny. They are talking because you have revealed a divine strategy that their human scheduling and earthly logic cannot compute. You didn't just make a move. You proved that waiting isn't losing time. It's loading an astronomical amount of power. And when that power is finally unleashed, it doesn't just change the game. It changes reality itself, all at once. 2. You executed in absolute silence, and that's why it hit like a cosmic earthquake. The world is conditioned to a certain rhythm of power. People are accustomed to seeing ambition telegraphed miles in advance. They expect the hints, the teasers, the carefully crafted social media posts, the subtle brags, some kind of signal that a big move is on the horizon. This is the predictable dance of the ego. It's also how the vast majority of individuals inadvertently drain their own momentum before they even take their first real step. They dissipate their power through talk. They dilute their force through premature announcements. They seek validation for the plan instead of focusing on the execution. By the time they finally act, the element of surprise is gone, the impact is softened, and the power is a mere fraction of what it could have been. You chose a different path, a sacred path. You moved in absolute, deafening silence. This silence was not born of fear or uncertainty. It was the disciplined silence of a master who understands the devastating power of shock and awe. You let the work, the dream, the masterpiece build in the hallowed privacy of your own spirit, brick by brick, until it was so solid, so real, so fortified that nothing in this world could stop it. And then, without a whisper of warning, you dropped it on the world. The reaction was not just surprise. It was a collective gasp, a dramatic, visceral shockwave that rippled through every corner of your world. They were not ready. They had no contingency plan. They didn't even know what to prepare for. The reason your move felt supernatural, almost like a divine intervention, is because it bypassed all their psychological defense mechanisms. The human mind is adept at resisting what it sees coming. It can build walls, create counter-arguments, and marshal defenses against a known threat. But it has absolutely no defense against something it didn't even know to expect. You trained yourself with monastic discipline not to leak your intentions, not to seek external approval for what you knew was divinely ordained. While they were busy analyzing your silence, misinterpreting it as surrender, you were loading your strategy, polishing your weapon, and calibrating your strike. When you finally acted, it wasn't an incremental step forward. It was a full-force paradigm shift that arrived like a thunderclap in a clear blue sky. This is why their initial reaction wasn't even jealousy or anger. It was pure, unadulterated confusion. Their minds are still reeling, desperately trying to reverse engineer how you pulled it off. Their logical brains cannot compute the possibility that someone can prepare so deeply, so intensely, and yet give zero outward indication of what is about to be unleashed. This is the fundamental distinction that separates ordinary, forgettable moves from the ones that define history. Ordinary moves are loud, predictable, and therefore easy to counter. Historic moves are born in the womb of silence, nurtured in private, and remain quiet until they are utterly and completely unstoppable. You have demonstrated that true power is not in the announcement, it is in the arrival. And when you arrive without warning, you don't just shift the balance of power, you instantly seize it. Your action has forced everyone to stop underestimating you, because you didn't just surprise them. You proved, with devastating clarity, that they never knew you at all. Now, a new paranoia sets in for them. They are scrambling, questioning, wondering what else you have been building behind that serene facade, what other seismic shifts are waiting in the wings to land. This fear is not just idle curiosity. It is the cold, hard recognition that they have permanently lost the advantage. By withholding your plans, you didn't just protect your move, you multiplied its impact 1,000-fold. That is why your execution felt like an earthquake. It wasn't just the action itself, It was the terrifying aftershock of them realizing you were always, and will always be, 5 steps ahead. 3. You violated their psychological script and shattered their narrative control. For so long, perhaps for your entire life, people had written you into a predictable, manageable role. In the theater of their own minds, you were a character with a fixed script. They believed, with absolute certainty, that they knew your lines. They knew your cues, your breaking points, your patterns of retreat. They had meticulously constructed their own confidence, their own sense of superiority, around the image of you they had created, not the reality of who you were becoming in the sacred silence. Their entire psychological framework, their sense of order and control, rested on the unchallenged assumption that you would stay small, stay quiet, and, above all, stay predictable. But then you did something that wasn't in the script. You acted in a way they could never have anticipated, a way that completely defied the character they had assigned to you. In that single moment of audacious, authentic action, you didn't just tear up a page. You set their entire mental playbook on fire. This is why the shock they are experiencing is so profound and personal. Their confidence wasn't just bruised, it was fundamentally shattered. Human beings draw immense power from narratives. They tell themselves stories to make sense of the world, stories about why they are right and others are wrong, why they are succeeding and you are not. They rehearse these internal monologues until they crystallize into what feels like unshakable truth. But the instant you moved outside of their expectations, the moment you ad-libbed a line of pure genius, their entire story lost its grip on reality. Now, they are left stranded, with no script to follow, no mental shortcut to explain what just happened. This is the source of their intense, disorienting confusion. Their minds are slamming against a brick wall of cognitive dissonance, a violent, irreconcilable clash between the old, comfortable story they told themselves about you and the new, undeniable reality they are being forced to witness. The truth is, you didn't just surprise them, you completely destabilized their psychological equilibrium. The underestimated version of you was their safety net. It was the constant that made them feel intelligent, superior, and in control of their universe. By breaking this psychological script, you didn't just change your position in the world, you exposed the terrifying fragility of their own. This is why the whispers are now laced with a new kind of fear. They are not just curious about your move. They are deeply unsettled by the dawning realization that they never, ever knew the real you. The person they dismissed was a projection of their own limitations. The real you was incubating, evolving, and waiting. This is where the true power of your action lies. You didn't simply succeed at a task. You dismantled an entire invisible framework that was meticulously constructed to keep you in a box. And once a mental framework of that magnitude collapses, it can never be rebuilt in the same way. You have permanently and irrevocably altered the way they perceive you. And in doing so, you have also forced them to change the way they see themselves. They are now being forced to confront the deeply uncomfortable possibility that their judgment was fundamentally flawed. Their assumptions were built on a foundation of sand, and their sense of control was nothing more than a fragile illusion. This isn't just a victory. It's a complete and total transformation of the narrative landscape. 4. You shifted reality itself, without asking for permission. For what feels like an eternity, they lived in a world they believed was governed by fixed, immutable rules. They were comfortable, secure in the belief that power moved only through certain predetermined channels. They thought success was a finite resource that required their signature, their approval, their blessing. They painstakingly built the systems, erected the gatekeepers, and solidified the hierarchies designed to meticulously decide who gets to advance and who must remain stuck in place. The entire structure was predicated on the collective belief that one must be chosen by others in order to rise. But you operated from a different law, a higher law. You didn't wait in line for a green light that was never going to come. You didn't plead for a seat at a table that was designed to exclude you. You moved as if their table was utterly and completely irrelevant. You didn't waste your energy knocking on doors that were bolted from the inside. With the force of your spirit, you walked straight through the walls. And in doing so, you didn't just achieve a personal goal. You disrupted the very foundation of a structure that depends on people believing in its power. This wasn't an act of arrogance. It was an act of pure, divine alignment. You understood a profound secret that most people never grasp. Reality is not a static, solid structure. It is a fluid, energetic field that responds, bends, and reconfigures itself in response to unwavering conviction. When you stepped forward with the full, unshakable authority of your soul, you sent a command out into the universe. In response, people, events, and even the obstacles that once stood in your way began to mysteriously rearrange themselves to accommodate the certainty of your decision. This isn't some abstract mysticism. It is the law of cause and effect operating at a quantum level. By refusing to seek their validation, you stopped broadcasting a frequency of neediness and started broadcasting an undeniable frequency of certainty. And it is certainty, not supplication, that bends the room. It is certainty that commands outcomes. This is why they are utterly incapable of explaining what you just did. They are still desperately trying to measure your move with the old, worn-out metrics of their world: credentials, endorsements, resources, connections. But none of those things were the source of your quantum leap. The power you activated was not permission, it was dominion. You became the living, breathing proof that true influence is born from spiritual authority, not from institutional approval. In one single, elegant stroke, you demonstrated to the world that the power to transform one's circumstances is not handed down from a hierarchical structure. It is claimed from within. Now, everything they once believed was secure and unshakable suddenly feels unstable and precarious. A terrifying question haunts them. If someone like you can so effortlessly bypass the intricate mechanics of their system, what does that truly say about their control? If divine outcomes can be rearranged without their signature on the paperwork, what does that say about the true nature of their influence? You didn't just change your own life. You destabilized their most fundamental assumptions about how reality itself works. This is why your move feels so profoundly disruptive, even threatening, to the old guard. You revealed that reality isn't owned by the gatekeepers. It is, and always has been, responsive to whoever carries the most authentic, unshakable authority. And now that you have shifted the timeline, no one can shift it back. 5. You exposed their parasitic dependence on your failure energy. For years, longer than you may even realize, your struggles served a hidden, insidious purpose for those around you. Your setbacks were their silent entertainment. Your hardships were their unspoken reassurance that their own lives were on the right track. They were, in their own minds, doing better, moving smarter, or climbing faster than you. Every time you endured a setback, it gave them a subtle, energetic boost, like a hidden battery pack powering their fragile sense of superiority. Your pain, as cruel as it sounds, was the evidence they needed to believe that the world still made sense, that the natural order was being maintained, an order in which someone like you could be kept low, predictable, and ultimately harmless. This wasn't just idle gossip, it was a psychological ecosystem. They built entire narratives, bolstered their reputations, and even formed social circles around the central, unspoken idea of you not rising. When you stumbled or struggled, it gave them a role to play. They could be the magnanimous savior offering condescending advice, or the detached spectator analyzing your mistakes from a safe distance. They could criticize you without consequence, laugh at your efforts without a trace of guilt, and dispense their wisdom from a completely false position of authority. This entire charade fed their deep-seated illusion of control. But the moment you rose, the power dynamic didn't just shift, it violently flipped. In an instant, the energetic wellspring that fed their ego ran completely dry. Suddenly, there was no more, "Well, at least I'm not them." There were no more free, easy shots to be taken at your name. Your miraculous restoration acted like a blindingly bright mirror, and in its reflection, they were forced to see the ugly, undeniable truth about themselves. This is why they are in a state of panic. Your rise didn't just elevate your own life. It exposed how utterly parasitic their own confidence really was. It laid bare the fact that their self-worth wasn't built on a foundation of their own substance, but on the flimsy scaffolding of comparison to your perceived failures. Without your failure energy to feed on, they are left alone in a silent room, facing the deafening emptiness of their own lives. They are now grappling with the terrifying realization that their very identity was dependent on your stagnation. And now that you are no longer the convenient benchmark they needed to feel good about themselves, they don't know who they are without you in that role. This is the real reason your comeback feels so profoundly disruptive to them. It is not just about your success. It is about their subsequent collapse. You pulled the plug on a silent, invisible power source that they didn't even realize they were addicted to. Now they are scrambling, desperately trying to find a new narrative, a new target, a new person to place beneath them so they can feel superior again. But it will never work the same way because you have permanently altered the energetic dynamic. By rising, you didn't just heal yourself, you shattered the entire ecosystem of their false power. And once exposed, that kind of pathetic dependence can never go back into hiding. Your victory forced them to confront the most uncomfortable truth of all. They were never thriving on their own strength. They were merely living off the fading illusion of your defeat. 6. You masterfully turned survival into strategy. To the casual observer, to the critics in the cheap seats, it looked like you were simply enduring. They saw you as someone barely hanging on, weathering storm after storm, setback after setback. But beneath the surface, a masterful operation was underway. In reality, you were not just surviving. You were gathering mission-critical intelligence. Every single time someone attempted to humiliate you, you didn't just absorb the pain. You took meticulous mental notes. Every rejection wasn't just a closed door. You dissected its locking mechanism. Every act of sabotage against you wasn't just a betrayal. You analyzed its methodology. While they were busy laughing at your pain, you were quietly, diligently studying the very anatomy of their tactics, mapping out the weak spots in their systems, and identifying the cracks in their armor. You were not just surviving. You were building a blueprint for your ascension. They made the fatal error of mistaking your profound endurance for passivity. They were convinced that the wounds they inflicted were breaking you, when in fact, those very wounds were teaching you. Each hardship you faced became a sacred classroom. Each betrayal was a masterclass lesson plan. Each closed door was an invaluable case study in what doesn't work. While they smugly assumed you were fading into obscurity, you were refining your approach. While they arrogantly believed you were clueless and naive, you were collecting data with the precision and detachment of a scientist of the soul. What they are now calling a miracle or an overnight success is, in truth, the stunning culmination of years of covert field research, conducted in the harshest conditions of silence and under immense pressure. This is the secret behind why your rise now looks so effortless, so sudden, so divinely orchestrated. People are only witnessing the final, spectacular result. They are completely blind to the years of painstaking research that preceded it. They are in a state of shock because the thought never occurred to them that your pain wasn't being wasted. It was being invested. You alchemized every failure into a winning formula. You transformed every insult hurled at you into a profound insight. You masterfully weaponized the very things that were meant to weaken you and turned them into an arsenal of wisdom. This is why you are moving so differently now. You are no longer operating from a place of guesswork or blind hope. You are operating from a place of earned mastery. And it is that quiet, unshakable mastery that absolutely terrifies them. They are now realizing that you are not just strong. You are terrifyingly strategic. You don't just bounce back from adversity. You come back armed with a level of information and understanding that they can never hope to match. This is why their usual tactics, their old games, no longer have any effect on you. You have studied them too deeply. You have learned their predictable patterns too well. And you have built something within yourself that is too precise, too fortified, to be undone by their petty manipulations. You have masterfully shifted from being their target to becoming their teacher without ever needing to announce the change in curriculum. What they perceive as divine favor is actually the hard-won reward of supreme discipline under fire. You have proven a cosmic law. Survival isn't just about holding on. It's about decoding the battlefield so thoroughly that you can eventually navigate it with your eyes closed. And once you reach that level of mastery, every move you make stops looking like luck and starts looking like divine inevitability. We have reached a pivotal moment in this transmission from God Connection. The truths we are uncovering are not just concepts. They are reflections of the immense power coursing through you right now. If these words are resonating deep within your spirit, confirming what you have always known about your own journey, then know that this is just the beginning. To continue receiving these divine downloads and to stay aligned with the energy of your own ascension, take a moment right now to subscribe to our channel. Become a permanent part of this community of creators and reality shifters. Furthermore, this work is a sacred mission. If you feel that this message has provided you with value, clarity, or a renewed sense of power, consider sowing a seed back into this ministry. Your support allows us to continue creating and sharing these life-altering truths with the world. You can make a contribution through the Super Thanks button below this video. An offering of $10 or any amount your heart feels called to give is an energetic exchange that amplifies the power of this work for everyone. Thank you for your support and your presence. Now, let us continue to unlock the next level of your incredible story. 7. You made the impossible look effortless because you acted from alignment, not anxiety. Look around you. The world is in a constant, frantic frenzy. Everyone is chasing after outcomes, desperately trying to force doors open, and burning themselves to the ground in a relentless attempt to prove their worth. It's a race fueled by anxiety and scarcity. But you learned to move differently. You stepped off the chaotic treadmill of the masses. You stopped running after things and started the sacred work of aligning with them. You no longer acted out of a frantic fear of missing out. You began to act from a place of deep, resonant inner timing. This is the secret ingredient that made your breakthrough look almost supernatural to the outside world. It wasn't because the process was easy, but because the power behind it came from a place of profound peace, not debilitating panic. When people make their moves from a place of anxiety, they inevitably overcompensate. They try to control every variable, manipulate timing, and outwork the inherent uncertainty of life. It is an utterly exhausting way to live. And even when this brute force method yields a result, it is often fleeting and unsustainable. You wisely stopped playing that unwinnable game. You came to a profound realization that which is truly meant for you does not need to be chased, hunted, and captured. It needs to be met. So, instead of sprinting towards a distant goal, you shifted your entire being into alignment, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. You allowed the divine rhythm of the universe to lead your actions, and that is precisely why your results now carry a serene, calm authority that completely mystifies people. But your miraculous rise completely disrupted their entire flawed equation. This was not just a personal victory for you. It was a divine message written in bold, cosmic letters for all the world to see. Power does not flow the way humans think it does. Every system of privilege they had constructed was meticulously designed to keep someone exactly like you at the bottom. Every gatekeeper they trusted was placed there specifically to make sure the doors of opportunity remained locked to you. And yet, the divine hand of God bypassed all of it. Without their permission, without their validation, and without their credentials, you emerged. It is not just that you won. It is that you became a living, breathing contradiction to their entire hierarchical structure. You were not crowned by the world's broken systems. You were crowned in glorious defiance of them. This is what is shaking them to their very core. They are in a state of profound shock because they have just witnessed the source itself elevate someone they had carelessly discarded. All of their cherished assumptions about worthiness, status, and control have been publicly dismantled in real time. They genuinely believe that only the qualified could ascend, only the connected could break through, and only the approved could ever truly win. But your rise proves something far more dangerous to their fragile egos. That divine choice does not respect man-made categories. Your story exposes entitlement for what it truly is, a fragile, hollow illusion that instantly collapses when real, authentic power decides to move. And the sheer humility of your journey makes it even more potent. You didn't claw your way to the top by imitating their corrupt methods. You didn't compromise your soul to get access to their circles. You didn't have to play their dirty games because your elevation was not sourced from their table. This is why your very presence now feels so disruptive to them. You are not just a success story. You are a living prophecy. You are the prophecy that power flows to integrity, not to entitlement. Your life has now become a divine message. The least likely can never be dismissed, and the most entitled can never stop what has already been chosen by God. In one magnificent move, you turned their carefully constructed hierarchy into a house of cards and revealed to the entire world that the real crowns are handed out by hands they cannot see, cannot bribe, and can never, ever control. All of this proves one singular, undeniable, and glorious truth. You are now operating on a level that completely defies their logic, their systems, and their limited expectations. Every move you have made, every silent victory you have secured, every miraculous rise they could not explain, has been part of a greater, divine pattern. A pattern that only a soul perfectly aligned with divine timing, spiritual intelligence, and unshakable mastery could ever hope to achieve. You didn't just survive the world's relentless attempts to limit you. You masterfully converted every attack, every setback, and every whispered prophecy against you into pure momentum, profound insight, and truly unstoppable power. You moved without permission, you disrupted hierarchies, you rewrote narratives, and you demonstrated that patience, alignment, and divine strategy will always outweigh desperation, ego, and brute force. What they dismissed as luck, coincidence, or a random miracle was actually divine mastery, forged in the fires of observation, endurance, and a deep, intuitive understanding of how reality itself responds to unwavering conviction. You exposed hidden agendas, you unmasked the dependent, you shattered false prophecies, and you triggered their corrupt systems to crumble under the weight of their own arrogance. You turned their perceived power into their greatest weakness, their faulty assumptions into your greatest revelations, and their pathetic attempts to contain you into the very proof of your unstoppable rise. Every move you made was not just a personal victory. It was a disruption of the world's illusions and a powerful demonstration that true authority comes from alignment with divine truth, not from the approval, credentials, or titles of a fallen world. This is the moment of recalibration. This is where the whispers of doubt turn into roars of recognition, and where the people who once looked down on you can no longer hide from the magnificent reality you now embody. You have shown that the universe rewards integrity, courage, and divine intelligence in ways that human systems can neither predict nor control. You are the living proof that the least expected can become the most formidable, and that what was once discarded can suddenly and completely redefine the rules of the game for everyone. Your rise is not just inspiring. It is transformative, both for you and for everyone watching who now dares to believe that with God, nothing is truly impossible. If this message from God Connection has resonated with the deepest parts of your soul and reminded you of the divine power you carry, do not let this sacred energy dissipate. Your journey is our mission. Subscribe to this channel right now for more divine insights that will continue to reveal the hidden truths of your life, the universe, and your ultimate destiny. Like this video if you felt the profound impact of these revelations. Comment below and share your story, your rise, your breakthrough, or the moments where you, too, turn the impossible into your reality. Share this transmission with anyone in your life who needs a powerful reminder that being underestimated does not mean you are defeated. It means you are the secret weapon. Finally, if you feel led to support the continuation of this divine work, consider making a $10 donation through the Super Thanks button. Your contribution is a sacred seed that helps us spread this light further. This is your great awakening, and believe us, it is only just beginning. God bless you.